Serbian Football Show, and that's it. That's the show. We suck. We lost. Have a good night, everyone.
Better luck next time.
I wish it was that easy, but we got to actually talk about the game. We all just sat through 120 minutes plus penalties. Scotland knocked us out. No Euros for another 2 years. It's been 21 years now. Too long to count. Disappointing performance. Very upset. Very drained. Very sweaty as well after a long day of nerves and anxiousness. Luca, how's it going in DC, man? How are you feeling?
Not feeling too well, man. Just when you think that the national team can't shock you anymore, and not in a good way either, they definitely topped it tonight, man. So, yeah, man. I don't even know what else to say about that. Just not a good feeling right now.
Yeah, I'm very hurt. I'm very empty. Belly, how's it in Adelaide, man? How are you feeling?
Buddy, I think you took the word out of my mouth. I'm really emotional, really, really empty. Like, guys, I told you on the chat, you know what I mean? Like, I was born here. I was born in Australia, and I was born in Australia, raised in Australia, went back first time in year 2000, and I've probably been back about 35 times since the year 2000. We know that we're in 2020 and we can't go anywhere this year. It's hard to explain. People might think that you're weird, but this all means so much to us. You know, like Serbs who live in Australia. This does mean so much, and we all do know that life does go on, and there are bigger problems in the world, and there's a football match, and como é mai, but it's just different where you see the colours, you see the flag, you hear the hymn, and it's a different feeling that you have because it's a heritage that you hold so close and dear to you, and it's part of what you identify as. And the fact is that now that we lost to a team that outwitted us, and I am really happy for Scotland for progressing, and well done them, but I'm left empty, you know, and I reckon there would be Serbian people around the world going, you know, like, on your smashing, you know what I mean? Like, why do you care about it that much? But as my late streets would say, ne valjaš ali si moj. And that's what's killing me so much. We were horrible, but they're still mine. And I can't tell you anything more than that.
Great words, Veli. I feel you on that. We all kind of live and die for the national team, especially when you live abroad. And it's one of the biggest connections that you have to the country, right, as a national team, and obviously your family and friends that still live there. But, yeah, it hurts and it sucks. Alexa, Belgrade, you're in Belgrade. How are you doing? How's the city? I'm sure it's very, very quiet right now.
It's quiet, it's raining, and I feel like a junkie going through a withdrawal. Not much else to say. I wouldn't really add much more. For the magic of editing, those who are listening to this will not have heard the first thing that Veli said, which was very poignant, which is that, I'm here and you guys aren't too far away. He's all the way in Australia, and the passion that he exudes and that we all exude is real. And as much as it's crazy, you just need to read Football Fever by Nick Hornby or whatever else you want to read, any other big book, and understand that this is the kind of stuff this is a team that I'm a goofball for. There are other things. We got tennis, we got basketball, we got this, we got that. But this is a team that I've backed when no one else has backed them. And to see the good work that we did just completely go to waste tonight, enforced all the stereotypes of our mentality that is the reason why we haven't done anything in this sport for a while. And unless major changes are made, we're not going to do it. But we'll get into those later on. I just do want to say congrats to Scotland. Shout out to my good friend Maddie Delaney, who's right now, celebrating and drinking whiskey. You guys deserve it. You were the better team. You have an amazing fan base. And congrats to Andy Robertson. I mean, just congrats to everyone. You deserve it, and I'll be rooting for you wholeheartedly. But now let's bust out the bleep machine because we're
Oh yeah, of course. Congrats to Scotland. Of course, we all love Scotland. Serbia loves Scotland. Very happy for them to go to a tournament for the first time in 22 years. It's a fantastic story. Great fans, great country, great culture. I'm sure we all have Scottish friends, all legendary people, especially the ones that I've met. So very happy for them, very thrilled for them, and if we're honest, it was a very deserved victory for them. And this is great for Scotland, and it's very, very bad for us because those 90 minutes that we just put in before extra time, before added time, and penalties were awful. I don't remember the last time that we created one real scoring chance in 90 minutes before Luka Jovic's goal in stoppage time. I remember when the last time was that we did that, even against really good teams like Portugal's of the world or even Ukraine now. They're up and coming strong side. We created more chances than that. We always create a lot of chances, so that was really one of the most frustrating things tonight was that we just couldn't create anything, and that was just like we were just sitting there. I was just sitting there waiting for us to do something, hoping we would do something, but we just couldn't win possession. We couldn't win the battles. We just couldn't get anything going with the passing game. Scotland was very strong in midfield. They were getting to all the balls. Their players really wanted it, and hats off to them for that. But just very disappointing performance. This game wasn't lost on penalties. I'm not mad at Mitrovic for missing his penalty. It is what it is. Penalties are penalties. The game should have been won, and we should have played a lot better before it came to that point. Luka, what are your initial thoughts about the game?
So, I was watching it on ESPN, as was my man Belly there, who had a lot of fun with the American commercials he saw. But as I was watching it on ESPN, the commentator Taylor Twellman of U.S. soccer fame, he said something, and I think it was totally true. It looked like Serbia was playing with 10 men, a man down, and at times it almost looked like we were playing with 9 men, quite honestly, on the field, dude. Just came out extremely flat, in all capital letters, man, and just where it almost seemed like we felt the pressure. For some reason, it could be because we're favorites. It could be how big the game was and what was riding on it. But it was just damn frustrating to see it, and especially in like the first 15 minutes where Scotland is totally dictating the play, dictating the game. We're over there losing every single 50-50 ball, afraid to move, perhaps because we would slip or fuck up or mess up. Excuse me. But yeah, man, that was in all my years of watching the national team. That was, I want to say, the most frustrating game I watched. It's almost like the players didn't want to be there. And I think we can drop all pretenses now of Tumbakovic being some sort of tactical genius, mainly because it was Scotland and they came up with a high pressure line with 5 in the midfield, right? They just packed the midfield, and we had zero answer for that. This is like a basic thing that with the quality of players that we have, we should be able to come up with a good game plan against it. Yeah, I know it was raining and all that. All those excuses don't mean nothing to me because it was raining for Scotland as well, right? But for Tumbakovic to not make a change even earlier, I thought, or change up the formation or something, or our style of play, maybe play some balls over the top instead of just trying to build out from the back all the time. I thought it was very weak on his part, and
yeah, I hear you, man. And
yeah.
There's really just Scotland. They did what they wanted to do, and that was really frustrating because we let them do what they wanted to do, and there wasn't much resistance on our end. And I think one of the main problems was that, like, the guys that we would sub on to kind of change the pace, change the tempo, they were already starting. Like, we had SMS starting, we had Sasha Lucas starting, so they were already in the game. So it's just frustrating, when you have those audits, usually that you go to try to change the game up, they're already in the lineup and they weren't working. So we're kind of out of options at that point, and
Milos,
it's a rough evening.
Even the subs that we brought on in Luka Jovic and Katai, it was more of a prayer substitutions than anything else. It seemed like by Tumbakovic, right? It's not like there was some sort of grand strategy behind it. It was more like, all right, boys, you go in there and God help us, let's get a goal. And that was it. That was the strategy.
Yeah, pretty much. Veli, I know the emotions are high, but what were your thoughts on the game?
One day, we will be a proactive team. And one day, we will be on the front foot and make sure that we can take out any factors that could be going against us or react before something actually happens. Now, people on the pod wouldn't be surprised to know that, us four are on a chat. And I think I flagged within 5 to 7 minutes, I don't like the way we started.
Right.
Now, when we saw the lineups beforehand, I thought it was unbelievably odd that Nemanja Gudel was playing like as a left centre half. I thought it was really odd that we had two players on the bench that could have played that position, yet we sacrificed Nemanja Gudel in the middle of the park where he provides a little bit of drive and played him at now he didn't play badly, Nemanja Gudel. He didn't play badly, but he was clearly out of position. Now, we were outwitted, which again really hurts. We were outwitted by a really wily, sophisticated manager in Stephen Clark, who I always rate a manager. It's easy to do something when you've got millions and millions of dollars and all the infrastructure and all the networks around you to do a good job. But he did really well with a very unfashionable Kilmarnock side, and he outwitted us on the night. Now, yeah, Tumbakovic got it really right against Norway, and we gave him praise on a previous pod. But he got it really wrong tonight. And guess what? Djuric didn't play because of COVID-19, and Veljkovic wasn't allowed to come, and Luka Milivojevic was a late COVID-19 withdrawal, and Alexander Kolarov, our captain, couldn't play because of injury. But we have players to plug those gaps, and we plug those gaps with the wrong players. And he needs to take some type of responsibility for that. Now, he let about 70 minutes of that game go without doing anything.
Right.
I think I said in the chat at halftime, he needs to earn his day's pay now, right? He really needs to earn his wage at halftime and change something. And we let that go for another 25 minutes, and he did nothing. He did nothing about it. Scotland packed the midfield. They pressed us, when we tried to get wide, that's when they created a 3-against-1 against the touchline, and we got frustrated. They got into our heads, and they were so good in terms of concentration and in terms of tactical discipline and execution. They were really good for 89 minutes. And then we scored, and we went to extra time, and we didn't go on the front foot, and we weren't proactive in making sure the momentum was ours. They took off three good players. They took off Dykes, and they took off the name slips me by.
McGinn, I think.
Yeah, and McGinn, yeah,
and Christie, I think.
And you could see that they went, oh Jesus, we've taken these three guys off that helped us get to this stage. Then we've conceded, and now we've lost momentum in the extra time period. One day we'll be proactive, but we played with that stari Jugoslovenski mentality of being afraid of losing rather than want to win, and we were just so precautious that we didn't even try, and that just adds to my emotion. Alex, say something, brother, because this phone might end up in the television.
Yeah, I think you're right, Valley. I mean, what ended up being a big loss for us, I think, is Luka Milivojevic, because if he didn't have COVID-19, there's a chance that he would have probably started in the midfield, and we would have had Gooden in the back. So we at least had somebody in there who could win some balls, right?
It's not an excuse for us losing, though.
Not an excuse. Oh, no, definitely not an excuse.
We've got players that can plug that gap.
Yeah, for sure. And Judicic, of course, a huge loss as well. But, yeah, not an excuse. We have more enough players that we should be Scotland. And they were better than us on the day, and they won deservedly. And that's on us. You know, it's not on the players that were missing or the defensive, misses that we had out of the lineup. Alexa, give us your thoughts, man.
Well, the setup was wrong, I felt, from the start. The thing that I absolutely cannot believe was that he put Kostic on. That completely baffled me. The dude has played, I think, maybe 10 minutes. He's coming off a ligament injury.
5 minutes in 2 months.
In 2 months, I would know because I tore my ACL. He had a minor knee injury. That was serious business. The fact that we didn't get any information on the Ristic was the biggest surprise of the Norway game. And who was the best player tonight? Filip Mladenovic, who came on at that left side, who was fit and who was ready. And that was a huge advantage for us because Stephen O'Donnell, for all his effort, any one of us could have come out and played instead of him. And the fact that he risked it in such a moment, the fact that I couldn't believe that he put Milinkovic-Savic on the side where Scott McTominay was, instead of putting him where Kieran Tierney is. Kieran Tierney is very short, isn't good leaping in the air. You had a left back who, despite all his issues, and Kostic probably could have done something to cross the ball long, and we could have won headers. The fact that Lukic, I didn't think had a bad game in terms of what he could do, but he was just misused because he was put in a defensive midfield role, and his biggest danger was on the edge of the box. The best chance we had in the first half was off a good build-up play from him and Milinkovic-Savic, and he took the shot that just went wide. And I was saying that you should push him further, and I was saying that we shouldn't have two essentially target men in Milinkovic-Savic and Mitrovic because it's too predictable. And I understood why he did it, but the fact that there was no movement from the other side, I don't blame Lazovic for not being able to contend with Andy Robertson because it's Andy Robertson. He's the best left back in Europe and in the world. But the lack of movement from Maksimovic was very disappointing. The complete discombobulation of the back three, good that it was taken out. I understand that he's tried it and that he's played that position at Sevilla, but I can't believe that he essentially put Mitrovic on that left side. He didn't put Gooden left. He put Mitrovic left, and that is the last position you should put him in. And the mistake for the goals essentially came there because Kostic had to come out and help him. He wasn't giving him a good angle to pass to. Kostic tries a desperate pass in midfield, and they completely killed us. Dykes was winning all the headers. The lack of abilities to pick up second balls, which is so crucial in the Norway game. It wasn't the headers that we were winning. It was the second balls from Tadic and Juricic that we kept picking up, that we didn't pick up this time. John McGinn and Ryan Christie tormented us in that aspect. They were faster to the ball. They were moving better. Dykes was frustrating us. We didn't seem to adapt to the mentality of the game. It was going to be physical. Lachos had a very weird criteria, but we should have adapted to it faster. We had more experienced players that could have adapted to it. The fact that he waited until the 70th minute to make, or 75th minute to make any sort of a change just didn't make sense. The fact that we could not put the ball wide, they were packing the midfield and again begging for the left side and the right side to be taken advantage of, and we just didn't do it. A host of tactical issues. On top of that, the fact that Tumakovic came out after the game and said that they didn't do what he asked them to do and that they just couldn't come out in the same approach as they should have come out. That's your job. If you can motivate them for this game, 11 players, as a Man United fan would say, who can you motivate? The fact that they didn't do what you asked them to do is a huge indictment. The fact that we just came out lacking tempo, the fact that it took him that long to put Gude in midfield, the fact that our defense depends that much on Kolarov, extremely disappointing. And like I said, the worst part about it is that after 2 months of really logical thinking, and I would say good work that was done, we threw it away. Because in the past 3 times we didn't make it. We didn't make it in 08. We didn't make it in 04 because of losing to Azerbaijan. You lose to Azerbaijan, you don't deserve it. We didn't make it in 08. We had a tough group, dropped some points we shouldn't have. We had a foreign manager there. 2012, we had half the team retire midway, and we sacked our best manager that we had. And we had political issues, and the same thing repeated in 2016. Those are all situations where we didn't deserve to make it. All the games we set up were proper. There weren't feuds with players. The team had a high bit of motivation. It felt like And the fact that we just completely thrown it away, our best chance that we're going to have, it frustrates me because it reinforces all of the stereotypical mentality things that we talk about, how we always blow when it's the most important and how they don't care and they're not interested. And I can't say that they don't care. They just weren't. It seemed as if they just didn't come out with the willingness to tear the Scottish players' heads off, which is what I felt they needed to do in order to win. And I'm just numb and frustrated. I tried to be analytical in this diatribe that I had, but it's extremely disappointing. And the worst part is I feel like that I don't know what the future is. Who's going to come in instead of Tombakovic, if anyone's going to come in? Responsibility on the FA finally going to be what it should be. The fact that you shouldn't change managers midway, you shouldn't wait until COVID hits to have an excuse to play three at the back. The fact that, and the management for the penalties as well. I mean, the fact that he allows Mitrovic to take the fifth penalty. We saw that he didn't take the penalty for Fulham against West Ham the other week. He missed the penalty against Sheffield. The penalty he did score against Leeds, Ilham Esmail almost saved it. He tried a penalty against Montenegro 2 years ago and failed miserably. Penalties aren't his thing. And it sucks mostly because he is the guy that has given more than anyone in this team. Done so well.
Absolutely.
So many important goals. And I got to point out to all the people criticizing him, he only scores in small matches. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo's record, where he has goals against Albania and Latvia and teams like that. And for those who think Mitrovic scores in small matches, remember Wales. We bailed us out twice. Remember the game against Austria where he scored twice. Remember the Croatia game. He scored against France. He scored against Portugal. He scored against Romania twice. He scored against Switzerland. He has
absolutely
so many times. He scored against Russia. The dude bust his tail off every game, and he was getting the living hell beat out of him tonight. It wasn't working for him, and he was still pushing, and he was still giving as much as he could. The service wasn't particularly great either. He had a couple of decent chances even then where the ball went either wide or Marshall made a save. So all of you criticizing him, Sal Milosevic, Peja Mijatovic, all those guys that are deservedly remain now legends, they scored against the likes of the Faroe Islands and Malta as well, and they didn't have nearly, well, I can't say nearly, but the amount of effort that he's given, he's not the quality of player that those guys are, but he's made up for it with his attitude and with his effort. And the fact that he's going to be the one that's going to be criticized is the most frustrating part for me. But that's how it goes. It's what it is. I mean, Baggio missed a penalty in the 94 World Cup final. Messi's missed. Ronaldo's missed. David Beckham's missed. The best players miss penalties. But it's extremely numb. And ultimately, we didn't deserve it on the night. We were beaten by a team that seemingly wanted it more, and that's inexcusable. And what the fuck do you do now? I'm sorry to swear, but
well, I'm not going to criticize Mitrovic because without him and his performances in the Nations League, the group stage, we wouldn't even made it this far. If you guys remember the games against Romania and Lithuania and Montenegro, he literally carried us that whole Nations League group. He carried us. He's the only one doing anything. The only one scoring goals. So if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even been in this position. He always gives maximum effort. He's been one of our most consistent and best players. So, anybody that's criticizing him, I don't really know where,
guys,
he's so far down in the pecking order of criticism that it's not even worth to mention.
Absolutely.
Right. But guys,
even if it's take for that, but I mean, it's the club mentality's killing us. You forget who plays for what club.
Right.
There are players who played for both big clubs that didn't perform tonight. And usually, if you look at our history, the players that aren't from the two big clubs have been the guys that have had the big moments and the big goals. So, just a club opportunity.
I mean,
what's really funny about the club mentality is Luka Jovic and Aleksandar Mitrovic, between them, played like less than 100 games combined for Zvezda and Partizan. So I don't know, they're
attachment even to have to the two of them. I mean, and the guy that got criticized the most in the last month or year or so ended up being the guy that got us extra time. So, I mean, that's just football. Criticizing people for that kind of stuff is something's wrong with this.
I mean, look, guys.
If somebody told you before the game that our two best players tonight would be Luka Jovic and Filip Mladenovic, you would be very confused. And you would not, because those guys have not been, anywhere part of the, substitute sporadic appearances, right? But they haven't been relied upon heavily or a major part of the team for the entire qualifying pretty much. And now they put in a good performance. They put in a good shift. And I think Atai was also pretty decent, although he was very frustrating because he kept shooting and sometimes he should have passed instead of shooting, and some of his passes weren't that good either. But at least he was trying. He was trying to make things happen, so I do respect that. But I just don't think the quality was there in his end product tonight, and just very frustrating. And we did touch upon a major issue tonight was Gudel playing as center back and not in his normal spot in defensive midfield. We really, I think some people haven't been sold on him for some reason, but, we saw what he did against Norway. We saw him in some other games as well. He was always there to win the balls in midfield, always puts on a lot of pressure to the opposing team, and he just wasn't. Without him doing that, we really missed that tonight because Sasha Lukic is not a defensive midfielder. He's not going to do that for you. He's never done that for you, and if you try to make him into that player, he's just going to be largely invisible, which he was tonight. And I think Tumbakovic should have known that. I mean, he knows Sasha Lukic very well.
We missed his physicality in extra time. He was his physicality. The fact he was fresh off the back. He was in the back, so he wasn't that tired. When he came into midfield, he was putting everything. He was pushing Jack and McGregor off like they were nobodies. And the fact that he didn't go to it sooner makes no sense. He had the shot from distance. He was crossing it out. He took the penalty. I mean, he's done his part, and the fact that it took Tomakovic that long to bring him on, the fact that he didn't have more physicality. In fact, Marko Grujic didn't get any minutes. Is unbelievable in this kind of a game. I mean, I know he's not played that much, but that they've got big, strong guys that can run, that can cause havoc. The fact that you didn't even give him an opportunity to come on, or the fact that you didn't give Sasha Zieler a chance. I mean, it's not because he's a Partizan player, but because he is objectively the guy that maybe has the best stamina. He doesn't have maybe the strongest passes, but he can play 120 minutes. The fact that you didn't maybe go with that kind of an option is frustrating. So there were certain things that he should have seen on the spot. The fact that it took him that long to do it just didn't make sense.
I mean, as soon as we put Gude in central midfield, the game changed. We started creating chances. We started winning balls. We had more possession. I mean, I'm really confused as to why he didn't start there in the first place. I know Collado definitely wasn't healthy, even though he was training, but he wasn't healthy. And he should have started Spike. He should have started Spike.
He should have kept Gude left and Mitrovic center. I think that's important. He put Stefan Mitrovic on the left, exposed to Christie and exposed to McGregor coming through. I mean, you give him time on the ball. If you don't put him to be a sweeper, basically, in the middle of the three, where he's not exposed at all to the actual happening. He's just there to kick people and win headers. You're setting yourself up for disaster. Because remember the Austria game that we had in the Russia qualifiers. He was playing left center back. He gifted them 2 goals. The fact that Tomakovic didn't even learn from that either. Very, very confusing. So,
yeah, as soon as I saw the lineup, the slippery pitch, and the rain, and then the first 5 minutes, I knew it was going to be a long night, and that's unfortunate. We know the team so well. We can predict what they're going to do, unfortunately, and this was one of those nights where I just had a horrible feeling as soon as I saw those 3 things, and at the end, our bad thoughts turned into reality.
Guys, think about it for a second. Of course you guys are, but I just want to put another point of view to it all. Think about what's just happened. We have lost, and we put all of our eggs in one basket. Scotland have won. They're top of their League of Nations group. History will only say that they've won 9 in a row now. I think it comes down to their fundamental belief and our fundamental management of our national football team and our fundamental place of our national football team in the Serbian people's psyche where it is. And I don't think anybody wants to change that. So if I give you a couple of examples, we started the League of Nations qualifiers. We lost against Russia, and we drew against Turkey. And correct me if I'm wrong. Or who do we play after Russia? I can't remember now because I'm just...
Yeah, we drew against Turkey and we lost to Russia. We drew to
Russia, right? Yeah. Tumbakovic comes out and says we were using those games as a preparation for the Norway game. The Norway game comes on. He looks like a tactical genius, and we really, out of this world, played better and got a result against a more fancied opponent. Then we fell off the perch against Hungary and against Turkey all over again. We got 1 point in 6. That's what the 3 points a win system does. It actually exposes bad performances and draws. And then we've gone now with no momentum into this Scotland game. Scotland were confident as ever. we all understand that they played the Czech Republic under 16s, but they won. If you look at those statistics in 60, 70 years' time, they won. They built momentum. They built a winning attitude, and they built a winning mentality. And we know, the BBC Radio Scotland actually says that we played against the fifth-string Czech side, and we hardly touched the ball. They openly admit that they were horrible against Israel. They seem to play Israel once every month, but they were horrible against Israel, but they still won. They grinded out a result. And our mentality of being so overcautious and the fear of not losing, and we also have that mentality that the Serbian national team is the third biggest team in the country. It's Zvezda, Partizan, Zvezda, however you want to put it. No one's interested right now. And then comes the national team. You would almost put them next to Vojvodina in terms of its popularity. We all know that, if I gave you this example, if they played tonight with the same conditions and the same weather and there was a crowd that would be allowed to come, they wouldn't get 10,000 people there. They would have got 10,000 people. But if Zvezda played with a crowd in the same weather and the same pitch conditions, they would have got, and if Partizan, like in their stadium, they both would have filled the stadium. It's just a different mentality, and what we need to do is to change that somehow. Change the mentality, change the management. And so if we sack Tumbakovic tonight, big deal. What's it going to solve? Nothing. Do you know what I mean? And that's part of the point that I get to. Yes, guys, I know that I know that I'm highly strung up at the moment, and I get it. The emotions coming out in my voice, and there's at times I'm getting
get it, man. Go for it. It's
you know what I mean? You know what I mean? At times I'm getting so high pitched, you think that I'm going through puberty, but it's what I love.
Then you just sound like me.
It's what I love. Do you know what I mean? The street heard it, 6:10. They heard Božja Pravda out loud because I sang it. Now, I know the words The Flower of Scotland too, but I sang it because I love it, right? But it's just, if we get away from that overcautiousness, that fear, we all know the corruption, we all know how people who are running it, probably, jebe se njima, do you know what I mean? When things are quiet, our journalists, just make something up. They're constant bagging. I'm a Zvezda supporter, but I love watching Artur Mitrovic play. I love it. I don't care what colour, his shirt was before he played for the national team. Jebe se meni, I don't give a stuff, right? Because the guy runs, fights, tackles, scrapes, and he plays to his strengths. I was so happy that he signed for a championship club previously when he went down, because they play more games than the NBA. Do you know what I mean? Like an NBA season, he's the type of player who needs that, right? So the whole thing, who plays for Zvezda, who plays for Partizan, I don't give a shit anymore. Think about three fantastic players we've had for the national team recently: Nemanja Matic, Bane Ivanovic, Artur Kolarov. How many games did they play for Zvezda Partizan?
0.
Exactly. So no one should be ever bringing up who the manager is.
And also, very quickly, our two best creative players, Dusan Tadic, Serbian Football Show, Mijat Gacinovic as well, off the bench where they are.
Absolutely. So you just adding to my point, right? An interesting thing that I thought about not too long, because this will make you laugh. I think I've told you guys before that I've been back to Serbia so many times from the year 2000, and there was times where it took me 35, 36 hours to get there, right? From Adelaide, Australia, you can get a map out. We are in the arse end of the world, okay? Now, there was that year where I went to go watch the under-23s play in the Czech Republic, and the under-20s, the European Championships, and the under-20s won the World Cup in New Zealand. You think it's right in front of my bloody door that I would have gone there, but no, I went to Europe, did my thing, and I caught all those games, caught a basketball game, everything, and it was all happening. Let me give you an interesting stat. Yugoslavia as a youth team, when they went to Chile, and the Serbia under-20 team when they went to New Zealand, they went to a place where we would all call pizde materine, with no expectations, with no pressure, no journalists following them. I reckon the people that sent them there was probably thinking, oh, I don't even care how they get home. And Yugoslavia, whatever was in the 80s, I can't even remember now because my memory's going because I'm so emotional. And the under-20 team, they went with no expectation, no pressure, and they were champions of the world. We know that it's at youth level, and people say to you, yeah, but it's at youth level. They're the people who also would think, God, I wish my country won it at youth level. I'd want to see them to win it at any level, let alone under-20s. The pressure got to us today. Bad organisation, bad choices, bad everything. And at the end of the day, we get sweet F all.
Well, you talk about wanting the people to get behind the national team of Serbia, but winning tonight would have been a huge step towards that. I think if we won tonight and qualified, a lot of more people will care about the national team than they do right now. Unfortunately, just the results have not been there, and we haven't given the people a reason to care. Of course, there's
Miloša, brother, if I just give you a plain picture, I was jumping up and down the house when Serbia won the European Volleyball Championships last year. That's how much all that stuff means to me.
I know.
And it means to so many other people, to Luka, to Miloš, to Alexa, so many people around and when I tell them stories how we will get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll tell you a famous story one day when we got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the game against Bosnia and Herzegovina when we qualified. 500 people turned up on 6 hours' notice at the Belgrade club rooms that I've talked to you about before. They were doing pigs, lambs at the middle of the night. That's how much it means to all of us. And I just wish that meant more to the people that run it, who administer it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, Tubakovic is a human being. He got it wrong tonight, big time. And our players, I think, have left the field with still a lot more energy in the tank rather than leaving it all out there. And that hurts. It really hurts. And
100%.
That's what's killing us all.
I think you're right. I don't think our players were spent after the game, and that says a lot. That really does say a lot. Where do you go? Where do we go from here, Luka? Well, what do we do after this failure? Another failure, actually. What's next?
All right. So here's the thing. I do want to touch on what you guys said about Mitrovic. I'm not criticizing him at all. He's actually my favorite player on the team for the same reasons that you guys have already outlined here. He's a straight up fighter. All of that stuff. I love watching him play, man. But there's no reason he should have been on that field for 120 minutes, let alone take that penalty, that fifth penalty.
I agree.
And
he should have been taken off.
Yes, and that's not on Mitrovic, that's on Tumbakovic. And that brings me to another point, where we say, we just fired Tumbakovic, and then what's going to happen? Well, yes, we already know that the FA is corrupt and political and all of that nonsense, right? But let's go back a few years when we actually had a awesome coach, and I think we can all agree here that Antic was the best coach that we've had in God knows for how long. And that we actually had a winning mentality that Veli was talking about, and that we actually won games and even beat Germany in the World Cup. That all should mean something, and that also should mean that the coach actually has more power than we give them credit for. So even Antic had a corrupt FA and the media and all of those things. But that also means that whoever we bring in next, and I have no idea who the hell it's going to be, they're going to have some power to do some good like Antic did when we had that amazing run. Right? So step number one, fire Tumbakovic. Look, guys, even since he started, the results have not been there, quite honestly. We've lost, tied more than we've won. We've had one amazing performance under him against Norway, but that's it. Tonight he messed it up big time. And it's time for him to go, and clearly, if the players are not doing what you want them to do, that means they don't trust you. And that's the biggest reason why he needs to leave right away.
Well, I guess since it's my turn, you guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I would agree with you on that. I think that what he managed to do, I can give him credit for the fact that he adapted to play a style of football that I think we should play, because playing three at the back in this kind of a setup makes more sense than what he was initially trying to do. I think the Portugal game we lost because they were just a better team individually than we were. The games that he set up, even against Russia and Turkey, were fine, considering the fact that we hadn't played for 9 months before that. The Norway game was great. Just a last touch on this game, the fact that again it was a copycat of the Hungary game. We went out against a team that switched to 3-5-2. We clearly don't know how to play against it. They put that middle block where they pressure the midfield. The fact that we didn't come out with an aggressive approach early, we didn't use our wing backs, and that it was a copycat game, except that we didn't have to gift Scotland a goal. They just took it. Because they have more talent, and the fact that he didn't learn from that is another thing that's baffling. He got it terribly wrong tonight. The thing I don't know whether he should stay or go. I have to decide on that. I think these next couple of games will be an indicator of that. The thing that's evident is that you look at an FA that fired a manager that got us successfully to the World Cup. If they're willing to do that, you tell me a manager who's going to be willing to put up with that. You tell me. We have managers that can do the job. Marko Nikolic, Vladan Milovic, whoever you want to think of, Pixie, for example, but they don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, and they're not going to show up. Nobody's going to want it. It's not going to want to work for you. Imagine, Billy, your work. You do something your boss tells you to do. You accomplish your task, and he fires you because of it. How would you feel? Would you ever give a positive review? Would you ever want to come back to work for that? You would never. So that's the first point. Go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's not just another Mirantic. Slavo Muslim.
Exactly.
Same thing. And it was the same thing. The minute we qualify for something, then all of a sudden people want to put their fingers in the pie.
Right.
Who weren't visible until they got somewhere. Right? And, and that's the other part that absolutely kills you.
To a couple of things that I think are crucial. The thing that people kind of did forget amidst this, I don't want to say Timbuktu's hype. I think the man deserves credit for some of the things he's done, and we'll see what happens later on, whether he stays or goes. I think if he was younger, I'd be fine with it. The fact the guy's approaching 70 is a problem. We'll talk about what happens with the playing squad a little bit later on, because I don't plan to end this early. But definitely a thing that's important. What is the criteria for the manager being selected? Was Timbuktu selected because of his recent success? Was he selected because of he had experience in the Yugoslav League and winning leagues where Partizan objectively had some help from other factors, just like Zvezda has. And now he was managing in China before that in Montenegro, and the way you got him was because you sacked a guy who'd never managed anywhere, and you decided to essentially put your hands in the Kosovo-Montenegro pie, and you told him, oh, well, you can't play against Kosovo because we need you now. I don't believe for a second that Timbakovic completely willingly decided to throw that game away. The way he was brought in all screamed of political propaganda and of some other program that they were trying to push. The fact that you have not seen a single match played away from Belgrade. The last game that was played away from Belgrade was in Kruševac against Paraguay. You have to stop that. The one thing that Siniša Mihajlović did well was that he allowed games to be played in Niš. He allowed games to be played in Kragujevac. You have to change that. Yeah.
But this is the only thing. This is the only thing that I had with Siniša Mihajlović. He didn't see it through. Do you know what I mean? Like he
took a Serie job. Yeah.
Yeah, he implemented everything, and you know what I mean. Like you have to sing the anthem, and you have to do all that type of stuff. And like guys, it's killing me when you actually, if you need to force someone to sing the anthem, for God's sake, show them the door, right? Like piss off. Like it's if you need to do that.
Thing that was specific on that was that I think that I've said before on that thing, the way that you show patriotism is by what you do and not by what you say. I mean, Marco Panzi.
Absolutely. But the fact that that was even brought up, you know what I mean? Like it's staggering.
Yeah, the thing with Siniša is very quickly he was inexperienced, and he was too stubborn in certain cases. You remember he benched Subotic in Macedonia, got into a fight with Matic and all that. The line he brought up against Croatia was out of pure spite. So that was a different thing. But there was another part of it was the media trying to implement a formation that would work for us for three at the back. can't go out and play that. You should bring more young guys in. He listened to them, and all of a sudden they turned on him. So the media has a big part to do as well. We'll get to that point. I want to let you guys say your piece.
But let me hop in real quick, man. I mean, you guys are right about the corrupt FA and everything and how they fired Muslin and Antic and who would take that job. At the same time, man, Muslin and Antic actually had results. Tumbakovic does not have results like they did. So I think it's just fair for the public to say he needs to go. I think it's only fair.
I would understand if he gets sacked. I wouldn't do it, but I completely understand if somebody was to sack him. I don't know what I would do with him. I don't know what I would do.
I will say that we do have to give him credit because nobody thought we would beat Norway, and we put in a very good performance. So, we have to give him credit for that at least. And I don't know if we should or shouldn't sack him, but I think he's definitely going to lose his job. I mean, RFA has a certain way they work, and he's 100% out, in my opinion. There's no way he's going to be around in the new year, and I'm sure we're going to be looking for a new manager. And the options are not, there's not many options out there.
Huge. It's huge. The options. So this is where you get into this situation, right? Let me put this hypothetical out to you three. They sacked Tumbakovic, right? And so the part that Tumbakovic is killing me was the Nations Leagues in between, right? We got 2 points out of 6 against a very average Turkish side and lost to a very average Hungarian side, and we lost against a more than solid Russian side that are still living off the high of the World Cup run. And so that part is definitely not a disgrace. But let me just do a couple things, put out a couple scenarios to you three. Number one, Veljko Paunovic is probably getting paid really well at Reading. Okay? He's not getting paid $5 an hour, right? So he's getting paid really well at Reading. Do you think that the Serbian FA would have the proactiveness and the inspiration to say, do you know what? He's had success with the national team. Let's go get him. Let's actually show him that we think he's our man.
They never asked him. By the way, they never asked him even after New Zealand. He said it multiple times. They never even asked him.
And that's what I mean. Do they come up and say, okay, I'm going to throw a name out there because, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Vladan Milojevic, the ex-Zvezda coach, used to say in interviews and things like that, ja mrzim mentalitet srpski futbala. I hate it.
I would have him in a heartbeat. The dude took Zvezda to 2 Champions Leagues, got out of the group stage with a team that had no business getting there. You trying to sit there and tell me he couldn't organize this defense? Please, I don't want to hear that he's in Saudi Arabia and all that stuff. He's worked in the youth setup as well. I'd take him in a heartbeat. You have other guys that they would take. Guys that even for the way he even Salim Milosevic, for example. I mean, even though he was building a creative attacking center, no one's going to take the job because they not only do they not want to spend money, they want to push their propaganda and they want to push because they want to be smart. And that's the part that frustrates me the most. You can have your tiny games, you can have your politics, you can do all that stuff. The Croatian FA and the other FAs aren't much better. I mean, England had a situation where they sacked Sam Allardyce, England, as the epitome of fair play and great functioning. But how do you not understand that changing managers nonstop, that not having any sort of legitimate criteria, is a manager young? Does he have vision? Does he have experience? Does he have a good connection with the players? There's no criteria by which managers are selected. The fact that people don't understand how working processes do. You don't have to be a football manager. You don't have to be a football head. You can be somebody who works in a big corporation, or you can be in a big industry to understand if you do X, Y, and Z, then you're going to have this, and this happen. But if you don't do it, then that's not going to happen. These are basic things that just completely lack common sense, and that's what kills me. You don't need to have completely competent footballing people. You can do your politics. You can do your dirty stuff, whatever you do. But the fact that you can't use common sense and you profit off of it as well. How do they not understand that if they had some consistency, they would have more money to take for them inside, and we would be happy because we would be playing in a big competition, and I guarantee you, if we made it to a big tournament and things, we wouldn't complain. We knew that the FA was corrupt, but the entire nation was behind it. We brought in the right management. The team was picked right. Things were working well. We care about that, and we wouldn't care now, but the fact that they cannot understand how basic logic works baffles me, and it continues to baffle me, and it will continue to baffle me. I had to get that out there. A third time.
It's okay. The worst part about everything is that this was our best chance at qualifying for anything in a really long time. I mean, this new format, this added chance to qualify, everything, our opponent, the quality of our opponent.
Continent, Hungary, Macedonia, Croatia, everyone's going. Slovakia's going, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is our best chance, or what do we want to say easy? Nothing's easy, but it's our, literally the easiest qualifying path we've had, because we just have to win 2 games against 2 teams that are, if we're honest, a lower quality than us. And Scotland, amazing, team spirit, hard fighting team, great confidence as well, but we have much more quality than them. And they beat us, and they were the better team, and they deservedly beat us. But this was the best chance we had to qualify for anything, and we might not get another chance like this in a while, and that's really sad and it's frustrating. We really, really dropped the ball here. We should have won this game. We should have come out better. We should have had a better setup. Players should have been more prepared. I really don't understand why, I understand we're missing a key player, Judicic. We got guys out due to injury. Defense is makeshift and all that. Rajkovic has one eye.
We still should have won.
Still should have won, exactly. Yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't have beaten Scotland. Even we could have been missing 10 players. We should have still had enough to beat Scotland. And credit to them, they were the better team on the day, and I wish them the best at the Euros. But for us, it's really, really sad. And the FA, I mean, we all know what's going to happen. There's going to be some. They're gonna throw some big names out into the media, get our hopes up, and at the end of the day, we're gonna end up with some veteran manager like Kosanovic or someone like that who's just gonna do the bidding essentially, like Tabakovic. So it is what it is. They haven't been able to get us a quality manager in a long time because nobody wants the job. Everybody knows what's waiting for them. So guys like Krstajic or Tabakovic who are happy to have a job are going to take the job, but people that are serious managers, like people who have promise, people who have career aspirations, like a Paunovic or a Jokanovic or a Ivic now, I forgot to take the job.
Miloš, that's what kills us even more. We are the land of Mina Miljanic, Vujadin Boškov, and so on and so forth. Do you know what I mean? Like, we produced top quality managers, not just footballers. Like Vladimir Antic coached everybody, Vujadin Boškov coached everybody, Miljan Miljanic coached everybody. And then, like if we look across the border, back down to the Tomislav Ilic and all the modern days that you correctly say, Ivic at Watford, Jokanovic, Veljko Paunovic. It's not like we produce bad managers, but they don't want the job to work with a bunch of goat herders.
You know what the worst part about it is that this loss tonight, I can't even say it was on, because it wasn't fight with players. It wasn't like that there were issues with the FA and stuff like that.
Right.
And we maybe have luck, but you have to deserve luck. And if they can't understand that luck is a process, it takes time. You need time and consistency to do things right, and eventually it'll come back to your way. But you can't just do something today for tomorrow.
Right.
The fact that we haven't analyzed, there was the great journalist Nikola Lalovic, who's from Monday, once said that we should have like a big, chest that we open up to see what's happened in our past, so that we know what's the average footballer like in Serbia. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are the things that we do well? What are the things that we don't do well? How can we educate the footballing public to stop going from we're going to make it to the semifinals to now we can't even beat anybody? How are we going to fix the fact that the domestic league is chaotic? How are we going to fix the fact that there are certain things that even with your politics and even with your dirty games, you can still use common sense to do, and they refuse to use it because we have a bodyguard running the FA, and I think they should deserve serious consequences. Of course they should have been gone a long time ago, but I give them no credit for making the World Cup. They ballsed it up that time. This particular situation, the fact that they didn't force this formation sooner, the fact that they didn't understand basic things, how they should work, the fact that we didn't go to this sooner, the fact that they don't have criteria and they don't have a system in place. There's no system. It's just improvisation and chaos. It's just chaos and more chaos is going to continue to frustrate me. And I'm now at a point where I don't even know what to do. I'm just screaming in the microphone because I'm angry.
Alexa.
Yeah, let's be honest. Do you guys think that Marko Nikolic is rushing from Spartak Moscow to coach the national team? You think Vladimir Milic is rushing for Saudi Arabia to coach the national team? They're not. They don't want this job. They know what's going to happen. And even if Kokisik gets chopped down by the government, and they bring in someone new.
If he does get chopped, he couldn't give a fuck either, mate. He's made plenty of money. You go see you later.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're just gonna bring in another political pawn guy that's not
same old story, dude.
Capable or qualified for the job. So it doesn't even matter who they bring in. The FA is going to be the FA regardless of who's in charge. It's just we need to have a manager who can capture the players, play a system, implement a system, and bring actual plan to the table. Because we can't worry about the FA. The FA is always going to be the same until our country changes itself, until our rotten system changes itself. The FA is not going to change. It's just going to go through this, right? We have Vučić now, and then he's going to be gone, and we're going to have somebody else who's going to be the same. So there's a larger issue.
We just want some balls. Do you know what I mean? We just want some balls. We just want some Dutch courage. We're going to say, can we do it for the greater good? Now, we know that this means nothing, but just think about it for 2 seconds. Us four. We had the balls to do a pod after a horrible loss. Do you know what I mean? We know what we're like as a nationality. We could have said, bugger it, and we'll just talk about it when everything is good. That's what we want from our national. We just want some balls.
We want some responsibility. We want a system. We want and I'm just going to say one last thing. It's a perfect segue, and I thank you so much for saying that. You compare us four. We're sitting here. We're tearing our hairs out because we care and because we just want to see something good done. And then you see the FSS Twitter account. What do? They turn off the comments. Fair enough. That's what pissed me off.
Yeah, exactly.
They turn off the comments. If you're going to give the big ones, be ready to face the music. They didn't want to face the music. That's why they don't have the support. I understand that the public sometimes lacks knowledge. I understand that the media is treacherous and it's terrible. But when you do things like they do, they don't deserve support. And it's unfortunate that it comes on the players' backs. I just wish it went on the FA's backs. But I understand the frustration of the fans because when you do stuff like that, no other nation would do that. I can't understand. I don't see the Georgian Twitter account being shut down. I don't see Northern Ireland fans who just lost after conceding 2 goals in a terrible situation. I don't see them crying, and I don't see them in a position where we don't want to deal with it. We're football fans. We care. We want to see things done the right way, and we want to see people take responsibility. We want to see people admit, hey, look, I got it wrong, whatever. Bakovic would have come out and said, look, I made mistakes. I got it wrong. Sam Milosevic had the great thing that he said after the AZ Alkmaar loss, the draw after when we got knocked out. He said, look, I wanted an idea. I got it wrong, and I take responsibility. That's human. But everyone's like, no, the players didn't listen to us, or we didn't have a good ref, or we always want to do conspiracy theories and mitomania and things like that. And we're just so removed from reality. We don't know where we are. We're so removed from common sense that it's baffling. It is honestly baffling.
FSS turning off their Twitter account is absolutely hilarious. I mean, come on, guys. As if that means anything, who cares? Take the comments. It's deserved. The criticism was deserved. You've been ruining our football for years. And just, who cares? Don't look at the comments. It is what it is. Luca, do you have any final thoughts, Luca? I know you've been waiting to say something.
Nah, man. I just wanted to jump in when Alexa was talking about, luck. I mean, to have any luck, you have to show up to win. And bottom line is, we just did not show up to win tonight. That's all I want to say.
That's all it is.
One last question I would point out. Kolarov is 34, 35. Tadic is 32. You think there are any retirements? You think there are any people leaving? You think who are the guys who are going to be coming in? What's the setup like? What do you guys think in terms of that aspect?
Kolarov already said he's retiring. So he said, a couple months ago that this will be his last cycle. So he's going to be gone, and then we have to figure out, our left back or left center back situation.
We'll talk about his impact in the national team and other stuff in the future shows, but it's a shame that a player of Dusan Tadic's quality and willingness, even though he didn't have a good game tonight, the fact that he's not going to play the European Championship because he's going to be 36 by the time the next one comes.
Mm-hmm. He's probably not going to make it. Yeah, exactly. It's very sad. He's definitely not going to make it for next Euros. He's going to be 36, so no chance there. I think he'll be around for next qualifiers. Tadic is a guy who he loves the national team. He always shows up. He never complains, never says anything bad.
He made a very smart move playing in Holland. Do you know what I mean? He made a very smart move playing there.
Yeah, that'll prolong his career.
Yeah.
So it's a shame.
All right, guys. Well, I think we rambled on for enough and ranted on for
guys,
enough.
Can I just one more, Miloš, can I just have one more thought?
Yeah.
Even it's going to kill me all over again. Our basketball team, our volleyball team, our water polo team.
The tennis.
They can all, the tennis, the tennis. They can all, and then, on top of that, it's men's and women's. They can all work with less infrastructure than what the football team does. And they do something, and they win something, and they carry that mentality onwards. We can succeed there, and for some reason we can't succeed with the football team, and that hurts. Gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure to do this with you today.
Yes, an absolutely horrible day. An absolutely terrible, horrible day. One of the worst games we've played in a long time. Probably the worst game we've played in 2 years at the worst possible time. Many questions, a lot of frustrations, a lot of confusion. But
and ultimately no answers.
No answers, no answers at all. But the great thing is we got 2 more games this week, and I'm sure we're all going to be watching those games. They don't mean anything really. Actually, they do mean something if we can avoid getting regulated, but relegated.
League C, and then we can do the 5D chess move of dropping down to League C and using League C to qualify for the 2024 League.
I don't want to hear the words League C ever again after tonight. All right, guys. A depressing standoff and a depressing goodbye. See you next week.